Okay, we are ready to go here. We have an absolutely fantastic presentation today revolving around trees and pollinators. And I'm going to get us started with a few words about trees forever, who we are, and then a refresher on what exactly is pollination and who are the pollinators we're talking about. We'll explore why pollinators are important. And then Nick McGrath is going to talk about trees and pollinators before we wrap up with Karen sharing with us all her trip to the mountains of Mexico to see the migrating monarchs up close and personal. Just a reminder, Trees Forever and our mission to plant and care for trees and the environment by empowering people, building community, and promoting stewardship. We have over 30 years of award-winning programs. We have a staff of, I think we're up to almost 30 now when we figure in our AmeriCorps members and others and DNR. We have a staff of roughly 30 working in Iowa and Illinois. We are headquartered in Marion. We've planted over 3.5 million trees since our inception and since 1989. We've done national projects and we are supported by individuals like you. So thank you very much. So, what are pollinators? First, we need to set the stage for what we mean when we talk about pollinators. It's crucial to understand that while we talk about pollinators kind of in a general term, pollinators include many, many things. Most of us are familiar with bees and butterflies, but pollinators also include more mundane insects like flies and beetles and moths. And let's not forget about mammals like bats, bears, and yes, even humans. And even within insects, thousands of species comprise pollinators and have varying life cycles. So, pollinators are not one thing, but many things that we collectively refer to as pollinators. I'm going to put my teacher's hat on for just a moment. And since we're talking about pollinators, I think it's worth remembering just what the act of pollination is all about. Pollinators transfer pollen from the male part of the plant, the anthers, to the female part of the plant, the stigma, resulting in the production of seeds and fruit. Why are pollinators important? Well, now that we know what pollination is, let's shift gears and talk about why pollinators are so important and why the concern over population declines the last decade or so. The short answer is that pollinators are crucial to a healthy ecosystem and food supply. Pollinators are sometimes thought of as the canary in the coal mine and are a key indicator of ecosystem health. Why? Well, the reason is because 90% of wild plants need cross pollination to survive and reproduce. When we put pollinators into the context of the overall food system, it's estimated that pollinators are responsible for roughly every third bite of food that we eat. A few facts and figures regarding pollinators and the food supply. 84% of commercially grown crops are insect pollinated. Pollinators affect roughly 35% of global ag lands. Native pollinators provide important pollination services for crops like alfalfa, melons, cranberries, blueberries, soybeans, sunflowers, and more. And the vast majority of pollinators are going to be our wild or native types of pollinators. A few facts and figures regarding pollinators and their value to society. Between 235 and 577 billion worth of annual global food production relies on the direct contribution of pollinators. In the United States, wild pollination is worth roughly 10 billion annually, and honeybee pollination, this is managed honeybee pollination, is worth roughly almost 20 billion annually. We know pollinators are important, but why? Why are pollinators in danger? Well, many factors contribute to declining numbers of pollinators in general, but we know that numbers are declining. So, among North American native bee species, again, that we have sufficient data to assess, more than half are in decline. And nearly 1 in 4 of our native bee species is imperiled and at increasing risk of extinction. Now, I absolutely love this photo because it shows very explicitly the importance of pollination. Insects and other pollinators do this work every single day for free as part of their daily routine of life. If they're not around to do this, someone else will need to. And a picture is worth 1,000 words. So why exactly are we seeing these declines in pollinator numbers? Well, many factors play into population declines of pollinators. Certainly, loss of habitat and seasonal forage, exposure to pesticides and other chemicals, invasive pests and disease are definitely a problem. And finally, a changing climate means changing landscapes. And some of these pollinators have very intimate relationships with specific plants. Well, sometimes we miss the forest for the trees, and pollinator habitat is much more than prairie. Perennials of all types can provide valuable habitat for forager nesting. Next up, Nick McGrath is going to highlight the role trees play in pollination and some key trees for our pollinator friends.